On September 3rd, 2021, you pled guilty to a single count of obstructing an official proceedings and agreed to accept the prosecution's recommended sentence, which was 41 to 51 months in prison. What made you accept that plea deal as opposed to going to court?
Well, the fact of the matter is, sir, I can't discuss that too much because that's part of what my motion is talking about. Let me just ask you a question. Have you ever been in solitary confinement before?
I have not.
Yeah, well, some people come out babbling like a baby after 30 days. Okay, I did 10 and a half months.
Wait, you were in solitary confinement for 10 and a half months?
That's correct.
Wow, okay. And what did that do to you?
Made me stronger.
Okay, well, on November 17th, you were sentenced to 41 months in prison. When you finally accepted that, how did you feel?
A certain mix of relief and anger, because Al Watkins assured me that such a thing would not happen. He didn't guarantee it. He said, I don't have a crystal ball, but, I really don't think that's going to happen. He was a master manipulator.
All right. So you actually served your sentence at Safford in Safford, Arizona, right?
That is correct.
Okay. You get transferred from a federal holding facility to actual federal prison. When you arrived to federal prison, what was different?
Everything. I wasn't stuck in a cell anymore. That's number one. Number two, I was in general population and able to converse with people and socially interact. Number three, there was a lot of interest on behalf of both the inmates and the guards alike to hear my side of the story and, ask me about everything. And there were some people that naively believed the Operation Mockingbird media and the idea that I was racist, an idea that was completely dispelled once they conversed with me. I worked out a lot, which was good. I did a lot of reading, which was also good. I taught a metaphysics class while I was in federal prison. That was really cool. It was much better than being stuck in a cell. I told a lot of the guys everything that happened. They didn't believe me until they saw the footage on Tucker Carlson.
Well, you're still in prison, though. So what was the worst thing you experienced while in prison? Were there any fights? Were there any threats?
Oh, yeah, there was a riot. Yeah, there was a riot while I was in prison. There was a couple of lockdowns where we weren't allowed to leave the unit. There was a lot of crazy stuff, man.
Okay, but you yourself, anything happened to you personally?
No, God has blessed me quite a lot. I experienced racism when I went to the DC jail, though. That was the very first time I ever experienced racism in my entire life.
How so?
When I was at the DC jail.
How so?
But I was only there for 11 days. And what's interesting about it, though, is that because I wasn't eating, at first, so most of the people that were the guards in the DC jail were people of color, okay? And they were watching CNN. They were watching the Operation Mockingbird media in full swing. And they believed the lie that Trump supporters are racist, that they're all white supremacists. And so being that I was the most recognizable of the Trump supporting crew, they assumed the worst about me. However, it didn't take long for them to converse with me and realize that it wasn't true. And then shortly thereafter, as I continued to essentially starve while I was fasting, I got to watch their hardened hearts turn to flesh. I got to watch them soften their hearts as they saw me suffer. Gandhi calls it self-suffering, and it's about changing the hearts of those that are oppressing you.
Well, you became so popular that you showed up in a bunch of different TV shows. I mean, not you personally, but caricatures of you. The biggest of which was South Park. There was a South Park vaccination special. Let's see what else.
Family Guy as well.
Family Guy. Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Reno 911.
Yep. Saturday Night Live. There's a character based on you. Season 3 of The Boys on Amazon. There's one member of the Storm Chasers that was dressed like you. What was it like to see yourself portrayed in all these different TV shows?
Well, I don't know. I didn't watch any of them. I just heard about them.
Okay. Well, one of the things that prosecutors actually mentioned is that you believe that you're an alien or some sort of higher being that's destined to ascend to another reality.
Okay, so in shamanism, this is called being a star being or having star knowledge or a star child. In Buddhism, it's called being a bodhisattva. It's a ancient tradition. This is something that has gone on for thousands of years. It's a part of ancient beliefs. And it is the belief that the same divine high frequency souls incarnate on the planet regularly every age to help humanity to ascend into enlightenment and higher levels of consciousness and bliss. That's why I'm here.
Well, on March 30th, 2023, your old lawyer, Albert Watkins, announced that you had just been released from prison 14 months early. You had served a year and a half. So why did you get out so early, by the way?
No, I didn't serve a year and a half. I served 27 months.
Okay, so 2 years and some change.
That's correct.
So how did you get out 14 months early?
Because I had 6 months of good time accumulated because I didn't have any infractions when I was in prison. In federal prison, you serve 85% of your sentence so long as you have good time. Mm-hmm. You know, as long as you're good, you get good time. And then I did a lot of programming, and thanks to Donald Trump and his passing of the First Step Act, I was able to accrue what are called First Step Act credits by doing programming while I was in prison. And due to that programming, I accrued 6 months worth of extra time off my sentence. So I had a total of a year, 12 months off my sentence, and I was released to halfway house 2 months before that sentence was over.
Well, you had a statement when you got out. You said, men of honor admit when they're wrong, not just publicly, but to themselves. I was wrong for entering the Capitol. I have no excuse whatsoever. The behavior is indefensible.
Okay.
Do you still feel that way?
I'm not going to discuss any of this currently because of the motion in the courts. We can talk another time.
Got it. Okay. So now that you're out, are you a Trump supporter or are you not a Trump supporter?
Well, I definitely don't support DeSantis. I like Trump. I don't always agree with Trump. But this is America. We're allowed to have our own opinions. It's a free country, and I'd like to keep it that way.
Well, what do you disagree with Trump?
Well, I don't much care for Operation Warp Speed. I don't much care for the idea that there were sacred Native American burial grounds blown up in Arizona to create the border wall. I don't agree with everything that he said. I don't agree with his drilling for oil when we have infinite, free, clean, wireless energy at our fingertips. If we would just use Tesla tower technology discovered over 100 years ago, that would completely change our economy for the better. It would make resources infinite, which would make war obsolete. It would make poverty obsolete. It would make travel a whole lot easier. It would make our communication so much more simple, so we don't have to erect cell phone towers and satellites. We don't have to use ELFs, extremely low frequency waves that give people cancer and, cause anxiety and depression.
Well, along with you, more than 30 members were arrested for the Capitol 6 uprising, including members of the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, the Three Percenters. One of the 10 Oath Keepers were charged with seditious conspiracy. Stuart Rhodes and Kelly Meggs were sentenced to 18 to 12 years in prison. 18 and 12 years, respectfully. 4 of the 5 Proud Boys were charged with seditious conspiracy and were convicted. More than 1,000 people have been charged with federal crimes, and about half of them have pled guilty. Were you in touch with any of the other people who got arrested for this type of thing, or are you just completely by yourself?
No, I was not in touch with anybody. All by myself.
Okay, so...
as most shamans are.
Got it. How do you feel about some of the guys that got like the 18 and 12-year prison sentences?
They have my sympathy. I don't agree with whatever it is that they have espoused. I don't believe that armed violence or armed revolution is the answer whatsoever. I don't necessarily know if that's what they were advocating for. I haven't read their statements. I haven't followed their court cases.
Well, Trump got indicted first in New York, and then he got indicted again in Florida on separate cases. How do you feel about that whole situation?
Well, I think it's hilarious because they just dropped the case in New York. Just goes to show that they don't know anything. They didn't have anything. He just had a Truth Social post about it, about how they dropped the case in New York. So part of the reason why I support Trump so much is because they're not leaving him alone. They keep going after him. And if they really cared about going after corrupt people in Washington, half of the people in Washington right now wouldn't be there. They're going after Trump because he's not establishment and he's not going away. They're going after Trump because they can't buy him off, because they can't blackmail him into submission like everybody else.
Okay, well, I mean, the New York case that he got indicted for has not been dropped. That's not true.
Well, that's what it said on his Truth Social.
Well, I mean, a lot of stuff gets said on Truth Social, but I actually checked, the news everywhere, and no one has actually reported that those charges were
maybe
dropped.
it's because the news screwed up and said he was guilty before he was proven guilty.
Right. Well, an hour ago, he got a win. There was a golf course tax probe that I think was dropped, but what he was indicted for in New York is still going, as well as Florida. So,
okay, I'll have to look into it more deeply. I don't want to speak about something I don't have full knowledge on.
Okay. Do you think that Trump will go to prison?
If he does, it will be a travesty. I hope to God that he doesn't. It wouldn't surprise me if the deep state is bold enough to do something like that. But I really don't think that he's guilty of the things that they say he's guilty of. What they're doing is a show trial. It's about the court of public opinion. They did the same thing to Howard Hughes, okay, when he was going against the centralization of the airlines and the federal agencies governing all the airlines and centralizing airline travel in the United States. And they pulled him out and paraded him in front of everybody. They did like a Senate show trial type thing where they tried to grill him in public and they tried to make him look like he was a profiteer off of war, and he handed them their ass. And I think Trump's doing the exact same thing.
Do you feel that Trump will win the election that's coming up?
Well, I don't believe we have elections anymore. We have selection processes. So if Trump does emerge victorious, then it may actually be evidence that our elections are taking some form of legitimacy.
Okay, but when he won the election in 2016, do you feel that that was legitimate?
I would like to think so. I've heard things about the NSA getting involved in stopping the Dominion voting machines from being remotely hacked. I don't trust any elections anymore. What I look for are patterns. What I trust are patterns. And if I see a pattern over several decades, and then I see that same pattern emerge in modern times, then I would trust that the entities that created those patterns decades ago are also creating them now.
Okay. And now you're out. You have a new podcast. You have a new website called the Forbidden Truth Academy. And, what's it like at this point, with all the publicity that you've gotten and everything else like that in terms of how you're progressing with your life?
Well, it's been interesting. I can handle it. I'm doing my best to spread the truth about Tesla Tower technology and how it can set everybody free, because I think that putting the power back into the hands of the people is the most important thing that we can do. Literally putting power back in the hands of the people, giving them infinite free, clean, wireless electricity. So I have been advocating for that very heavily, as well as helping people to try to understand that we are in the midst of very real psychological warfare techniques being used on the public, that it's been going on for a very long time. The government has legally allowed themselves to propagandize the American people. They were, for a while, not allowed to do that to Americans, but they were allowed to do it to foreign nations. It has been legally allowed, finally, by the government to propagandize the American people, even though they've been being propagandized for a long time. I am doing my best to be a figure of unity, of love, of forgiveness, of peace, and for freedom. Because I think everybody, Republican and Democrat voters alike, can agree on all of those things.
Well, Jacob, I appreciate you coming in. You did your time. Whatever your actions were back in January 6th, you have, went to prison and you served your time, and you're allowed to say what you went through, and you're allowed to, give that information out in whatever way you see fit. I don't agree with everything you say, but ultimately that's what makes America such a great place. We could all have separate opinions. We could all support different ideas and different presidents and different religions and so forth. Whatever you choose and whatever you find peace within yourself, I'm happy that you're able to find that peace, and I think that whatever you believe, you should have the right to believe that. And, I wish you only the best. And I hope that whatever goals you set out, you achieve those goals.
Well, thank you. My goal is to unite humanity and help everybody to ascend. My goal is to create unity. My goal is to expand freedom all over the planet. My goal is to basically be a force for good in the world, as it always has been. And if you don't mind, I'd like to plug my Twitter.
Go ahead.
My Twitter is at America Shaman. That's America Shaman, at America Shaman on Twitter. My website is forbiddentruthacademy.com. We have all sorts of courses that are totally free. We have a free podcast you can listen to. We have merchandise that is just freaking kick-ass. It's so awesome. If you haven't seen the merch, you got to check it out. We got yoga pants. We've got slides. We've got coffee mugs. We've got hats. We've got shirts. We've got mouse pads, we've got posters and flags, you name it, we got it. It's all great. It's hilarious. Some of it is really cool. You got to check it out. Lastly, I just want to say thank you for having me. And, this is still a free country. The only way that we can have our rights taken is if we give them away. We must use them before we lose them. So get out there and exercise your freedom of speech. Get out there and, if you can, have your right, exercise your right to bear arms. If you can, all depending on the social media you're on, you won't be censored, and free speech is a real thing. Some social media outlets don't like it when people espouse viewpoints that disagree with their political opinions, but so be it. We're going to win. Humanity's going to win, Vlad. And the transhumanism agenda, this globalist new world order, one world government will fail, just as the Catholic Church and its oppression of the people failed. We are going to have something akin to a mass renaissance, a European enlightenment, except for the entire world, where the truth breaks through the dam of lies. And we are going to awaken. We are going to evolve. We are going to ascend. I'm going to see to it personally.
That's what it is, man. And regardless of whether people agree with you or disagree with you, the one thing I can say from having this conversation, it seems like you have a good heart, and it seems like your heart's in the right place. And listen, man, I wish you all the best. Until next time. Peace.
Namaste.